Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm so used to saying good morning, Jim.
I think it's
How you-
evening.
Yeah, it is. And here we are on our Wednesday edition of Detroit in Black and White. It looked like we riding solo today, Jim. Hopefully, Vanessa jumps in before we go off the air. But let's get going. We're here virtual, Detroit in Black and White. Hello, Karen. One of our faithful who watches us and comment every week.
Participate. She's a participant.
Okay. Have you been watching the convention, Republican convention, Jim?
I've watched some of it, yes.
Give me your take on it.
Well, it's all MAGA all the time, and to start with, I'm kind of disappointed. I think the prospective Republican nominee, or I guess he is the nominee now, he's voted in. His number two choice is a guy named Vance out of Ohio, and
JD.
Vance. And I think that he probably had a dozen choices that could have sent a message to the people that he was not the old Donald Trump, and he stuck with the old Donald Trump.
Well, I think that's a mistake getting Vance. What do Vance bring to the table? Uh, Ohio is a solid red state. Uh, it's not going to go blue. They don't like Joe Biden, etc. Vance was the only statewide Republican that had a real close race. He almost lost that Senate race. Everybody else, the governor on down, won their race against the Democrats by at least 20, 25 points. You know, Biden got his ass kicked in Ohio. So I don't understand that choice.
Answer this question for me. Didn't Ohio vote to preserve abortion? Was there some kind of referendum on abortion in Ohio?
Yeah, and there's no question. And the Republican governor has told Republicans there who said we're gonna keep Biden off the ballot, and the Republican governor said bullshit.
Yes, we did.
You can't keep anybody off the ballot. So yeah, Ohio is going to be very interesting uh, in this campaign. When you think that this assassination attempt made it a slam dunk for the Republicans, it's not though. It's not. Even with all the chaos that's going on in the Democratic Party, you still got a close race.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, I will say this. Wasn't it former President Barack Obama that said, when he was referring to the current president, that don't underestimate his, opportunity to F things up? Well, I feel the same way about the guy on the Republican side. He had an opportunity, and he made a decision. I don't know how it helps him in Michigan. I don't know how it helps him in Pennsylvania. I don't know how it helps them in Ohio. They're talking about this blue wall, and I'm not sure that when it comes to women, maybe there's some women out there who like to talk to us about it. I think he only hurt himself, and
there's no question about it that Vance is a ultra right wing guy. He's a Marine, like I am. A former Marine who became famous because he grew up in rural Ohio, wrote a book about it, made good. He's one of the few people that came out of his town that made good, that got a good life, and he married a Nikki Haley type woman, a wife of Indian immigrants who was a registered Democrat at one time. And Vance called Trump America's Hitler, saying he was a never Trumper. Now all of a sudden they in love with Trump. I don't get it. You tell me, how do you flip the switch, call somebody Hitler, and then go and get on the ticket with them? And you're going to campaign with this guy.
Well, I noticed Nolan Finley today had some negative comments about J.D. Vance. He talked about the title of his book, and how it's talking about hillbillies and how that would be disrespectful to a group of people. And if it was a different word or a different type of word that was detrimental to a segment of our populations, we probably wouldn't put up with it. So I thought.
Well, no, hillbilly is a derogatory term, just like Arab, just like nigga, just like you want to call folks these kind of names. Yeah, it's not a term of endearment. It's a term that, you look at some of these old movies and some of the stuff they say in them, man, they couldn't say it and get away with it today. But that's just the way it was. Listen, the word gay, go back 90, 100 years ago, it meant being happy. For some people, being gay is being happy, but you know what I'm talking about.
So what's your take on the convention so far from
A lot
an
of
independent?
well, I looked at, they trotted all the black folks out there, and it was a bunch of bullshit. Listen, you can be a Republican. Ed Brooks was he was an attorney general of Massachusetts in the early 1960s, a Republican. He was a senator out of Massachusetts as a Republican in the 60s and 70s, and he was a normal person. You don't have to be an idiot to be a black Republican. John James got up there and said, "Oh, my father, he overcame racism because of hard work. He started a trucking company, and despite all the setbacks, he made it on his own. We didn't need any help. That's bullshit." Coleman Young gave his daddy all kind of contracts. There's people that broke these Jim Crow laws to make it possible for black folks to get a level playing field in business, and these set aside programs, etc. All these folks are talking about, oh, you know what? No women should be part of the Secret Service, but how fucked up has been that every president that's been assassinated or shot at, it wasn't no women Secret Service agents. There was no black Secret Service agents. So I don't know. They play this DEI bullshit, which is bullshit. And John James couldn't have got into the U.S. Military Academy if it wasn't for people like Benjamin O. Davis Jr. and Henry Flipper and all these African Americans that went before him and took all the bullshit that they had to take and made it possible for him. He's like Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas benefited from affirmative action programs and everything else, and now this asshole is against everything because he's in somebody's pocket. He don't have to pay for shit.
I want to go back to I want to go back to a point you made, but or a point you didn't make. But I'd like to go and talk a little bit more about that race if we can, and what you think about how Trump may affect that John James and Carl Marlinga race. But I want to talk about the federal law enforcement for just a second too. I will tell you this: I've been critical of James White and the Detroit Police Department at times, but I would guarantee you that what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania would not have happened if James White and his team at the Detroit Police Department or the Philadelphia, the New York Police Department, or even the Columbus Police Department was in charge. That would have never happened. It would have never happened. It was a complete failure. It was a disgrace. So the guys walking around, the Secret Service was aware of his presence on that roof at 5:52, and the first shot was at 6:12. In 20 minutes, you could have walked to that building 5 times, went up there, tapped the guy on the shoulder, and taken his gun away from him. It's
why they didn't do that?
That's a great
Tell
question.
me. So why do the woman that's a part of that team gets all the blame?
Well,
It's enough blame to go around.
well, generally, you know, the head would be making a decision. Would be a SWAT officer or somebody that's more involved in the tactical operations. And the tactical operations were terrible. And I saw some people there that obviously, I rarely tell the story, but if I may indulge you in an old police story, I had like 6 or 8 months on the job, and the FBI came to get a bank robber. They came to try, and we have this guy. We need you to help us out. Well, it's a story that I'll never forget because we did a traffic stop on the bank robber, and the 2 FBI agents that led us to this bank robber. The first time we saw them again, they came out, told us, pointed them out, said what they didn't show up. They didn't get out of their car and come up to talk to the bank robber. The next time we saw the FBI agents was back in the jail when the guy was locked up. So my point is only that a lot of these organizations they train all day long, but they don't deal with these kind of incidents on a regular basis. BPD does, and other police agencies.
But they said that one of the local cops saw the guy and ran.
Well, that's and that may have happened. We don't
God,
know.
man.
We do know it
Listen,
took plenty of time to take him out before he was able to kill people.
but you know, and I know, Jim, that there have been people at the Trump rallies that have walked around with weapons and loaded weapons, etc. So,
Well, here's the situation. The Secret Service control those events, and they will not allow weapons inside. But obviously, he was able to get within 130, 140 yards with a long rifle, which is scary to anybody. So.
well, and now let's look at the fallout of this assassination attempt. Is the Democrats toast?
I don't know that
Are
they're
they?
toast. What worries me is the attitude. It's the panic in the Democratic Party today I thought about 1981, 1982. Remember the fear when Ronald Reagan was elected? Remember the bumper stickers, save Social Security, save Medicare, all this. They're kind of, the Democrats are in kind of a similar place. They feel hopeless. And I don't think that they're hopeless. I don't think this election's over.
Well, I don't either, but it's critical. The Democratic Party still trying to. There's some people in the party that's trying to force Grandpa to take a leave of absence.
I
And
can make
say
a
goodbye.
strong argument for Joe Biden and his leadership and some of the things he's accomplished. He's trying to fix the Social Security payments to people that have been pushed out of the system. They've earned the money, and he's trying to make sure that people get the money. If you look at if you're a retiree as I am, and you look at your IRAs and your financial, they should be out there saying, go home and pull out your paperwork. Go online and look at your accounts. How do they look today? Everything looks financial like it's headed in the right direction, but they're not making that argument. They feel like it feels like they're afraid instead of trying to get out there and talk. But they have to be honest. All right, please just go look at your 401 or your IRA. Let me show you what I'm trying to do for people that earn Social Security and didn't receive it. There are things they could be talking about, but they're not talking about them.
Well, and you're absolutely right. It's getting to the point where either you get Biden out or just shut the fuck up and roll with the nominee for the party and campaign. That's what you're gonna have to do because it seems like Biden has dug in and says, "I'm not going anywhere." He got people telling him, "You don't have to go anywhere," and that's that's where we at right now. Uh, People are worried that folks like Alyssa Slotkin won't be able to pull off a win The Democrats might lose a seat up in Flint. Dale Kilding's seat is up for grabs. Rashida Tlaib she's not even a Democrat anymore. She's a Palestinian, and they pissed off at what's happening over there in Israel. And Shree, I don't know what he is. The Free Press and the News gave him an endorsement, but it wasn't. It wasn't the kind of endorsement you give a candidate that's been doing a lot in D.C. because he hasn't been. But they, out of good conscience, couldn't support Mary Waters, who's a convicted felon and whose campaign is managed by a convicted felon. So this is what we face it here in the city of Detroit and in the state of Michigan. Total chaos. But having said all that, before we go on, let's take a break and we'll continue with this conversation. Detroit in Black and White, Wednesday night edition.
This is Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat running for the U.S. Senate. I want to share a story about who, more than anyone, taught me the importance of listening and accountability. It was President Barack Obama. I served in the White House on his national security staff. I got to see him in action, up close, and behind closed doors in the Oval Office. First, he was brilliant, and therefore demanded people really knew their stuff. It was President Obama who grilled me on issues and demanded accountability on what we said and did. That commitment to accountability is exactly the approach I use today, listening to our communities. It's why I've written an opportunity agenda with detailed plans to strengthen Black businesses, increase Black wealth, and provide real opportunities for our youth. Because, as President Obama taught me, you better say what you mean and mean what you say. So that's why I approve this message.
Vote early or on August 6th for Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat for U.S. Senate. Paid for by Alyssa Slotkin.
Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
Being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Okay, we're back with Jim Nardone. I'm Adolph Mongo, Detroit in Black and White. We ride solo today. Jim, go ahead.
I just wanted to talk to Karen for just a second. She talked about the EPA and the Chevron in 2011, but it gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about the Supreme Court. And the president's come out and talked about term limits in the Supreme Court and doing some things that probably will never happen because you need a constitutional amendment. I guess it's political posturing, and some of those ideas are not terrible, but I think that we're probably not going to get any of those.
But you know what? You look at the history of the Supreme Court. You had at times where they added justices to the Supreme Court because they didn't like what the makeup was, and when Roosevelt, Franklin became president, he tried to stack the Supreme Court with about 12 people on there. And they said, oh, no, can't do that. So I'm not surprised because in certain times in this country, the Supreme Court has been real assholes. And now we got a court that, man, they taking gifts. Some of them probably always took gifts from folks. But Clarence Thomas and his gang, they have no shame. You know, they paying for, they telling you can't do this or do that, but yet they letting people pay for trips, and it don't look good. It doesn't look good, Jim.
It does not. And Karen doesn't always agree with me. Actually, she rarely agrees with me. But I appreciate you, Karen. I'm not going to chase you off like Adolph chased off the last viewer last season. We can't chase. We can't chase our friends off. We have to keep bringing them in, even if we don't agree with them. So.
Well, you know what? I love them like a relative. You know, you say what you mean, but the bottom line is this is going to be a real interesting presidential election, and I thought the Republican convention would be some more fireworks and stuff, but it's been one big love fest. You got folks wearing bandages over their ears. It's like they selling T-shirts and all kind of shit. Man, what does this country come to, man?
Well, we know it always flips back and forth, right? And the problem is it shouldn't flip. I mean, when it flips, we had Donald Trump, then we have Joe Biden, and now if we're going to get Donald, it could be problematic. We're not really establishing anything. We're not. If you go back to Bill Clinton, he was there for 8 years. If you go back to Reagan and Bush, they were able to get some things done, even if you didn't agree with them. It just seems like nothing's getting done today because everybody's a short termer.
And nothing's gonna get done, you know, because some of the rules in the Senate where you can hold up shit and you can do this or you can do that. I think that the Democrats at this point better regroup and say, okay, Grandpa is the guy that's gonna lead the army. We need to make sure that we control the Senate, or maybe we can control the House. And here we are. You know, if we lose the presidency, we still got control in certain parts of the government. But if it's chaos and they lose all of it, man, it's going to be a feeding frenzy. You got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebach and all these, Ted Cruz.
Yeah, I want to go back to that for just a minute. If Donald Trump wins Michigan and Carl Marlinga, this was his opportunity. He's like us. He's not a real young guy, but it seems like it would be unfortunate if he loses his opportunity because a few thousand people go the other way.
Right, and they not throwing the money in. Democrats got a ton of money, and they don't they don't want to spend it here. I don't know. Can't force them.
There's a big difference in being a legislator and being a talking head for your party, and it seems like we're leaning more towards talking heads. And I'll use John James as an example. It seems like he's more of a cheerleader for the Republican Party instead of a legislator.
Well, he really don't want to be a congressman. He want to be in the Senate. That's his makeup. But for him and Tim Scott, he thought he was gonna become the vice presidential nominee. So he went out and found some woman to become his girlfriend for the moment. Man, if you're gay, you're gay. Who gives a fuck? I know I don't.
No, I don't either.
And it's like Cory Booker went and found an actress. When he ran for the Senate, he went and got him a girlfriend, Rosie Dawson, a pretty girl, pretty young lady rather. But and I know that listen, the rumors always been out there. So what? Who cares anymore? Yeah, some people might care, but really, in the scheme of things, nobody cares.
Cory Booker could win this election. Gavin Newsom, not so much. I think a guy like Cory Booker is the future of the Democratic Party, and I don't think that they give Cory Booker
enough credit.
Absolutely. I think he's been whether I agree or don't agree, he goes to battle. He goes to battle, and he often wins.
And no question. So here we are. We calling it D-Day. shit. November is right around the corner, and Milwaukee is what, next month? The convention in not Milwaukee, the
Chicago.
convention in Chicago next month.
It's coming up pretty quickly. I think the MC5 is going to be there too. No, I'm just kidding.
Nah, Jerry Garcia is gonna come back from the grave and be the deadheads.
Well,
But-
the MC5 is all gone, but they played for hours, right, at the Democratic Convention in '68.
Yeah, well, you know, Richard Daley really put his stamp on it. That was a madhouse, man. You know, you think the only problem the Republicans had, Columbus police, they like to shoot.
Yeah,
They came to Milwaukee and they shot and killed somebody. Your take on that?
Yeah, that's hard to figure. It's not a very usual occurrence where an out-of-state police agency would go and enforce laws in another state. They must have some kind of an agreement, but crossing state lines, you know, back in the day, the bootleggers and the bank robbers, they want to cross the state line because they had different laws, right? If you were in Bonnie and Clyde in Arkansas, you were going to Texas or whatever because, you know, laws were enforced differently.
Right, and you saw a lot of these movies where the police is chasing somebody and they get on the bridge and they in Tennessee now. Police stop. They don't go any further. But I don't get why they had why are they enforcing laws in Wisconsin?
That's a great question. They must have been sworn in as Wisconsin police officers, and I haven't seen that.
And the police chief in Milwaukee said he had no problem with it. That's like me. I'm a constable in Royal Oak Township, so I go to Trenton and shoot somebody. You the chief. What's your first reaction?
I have a place for you to spend the night in the accommodations, probably. That's what would be my reaction.
that is unbelievable. Well, Jim, your final thoughts on what just took place in the last week with our former president, and now that Joe Biden has COVID, what do we expect?
Well, I sure hope that Joe Biden survives the weekend. However, when we go back to the event in Butler, I guess Butler Township or Butler, I've been over in that area. I've ridden my motorcycle over there. It's pretty rural. And it was a failure of law enforcement. Somebody didn't see a guy with a long gun. There was 40 or 30 or 50. I don't know. They always exaggerate the amount of people that are at a Trump rally. So I don't know if there were 50,000 people or 5,000 people, but somebody should have saw this guy. They knew he was there. They had him on videotape. He had a rangefinder, which is what we use on a golf course to see how far away we are from the pin, 100, 200, 300 yards, whatever the case may be. And that if nothing else, he should have been interviewed by the Secret Service, and they didn't do anything. And
well, and what I was really baffled, the former fire chief in that area that was killed, his wife wouldn't take the president's phone call. Let me tell you, now if that was me and Trump was the president and called me, I took the call. And whether I support him or not, these folks say they respect the office, etc. But I just thought this woman, she didn't do her husband memory any favor, because president, I think, was really genuine in reaching out to the folks that was injured and who and the families of the person that died. He even called Donald Trump himself. So
There's something wrong with this country when you won't take a call from the president of the United States under whatever circumstance. Very sad circumstance, but something changed in this country 10, 20, 30 years ago where they have so much hate, and it's just politics, people. It's just politics. We got through Reagan, we got through the Bushes, we got through whoever side you're on. We got through the Clintons and the 2000s.
Obama. We survived Richard Nixon. We survived Jimmy Carter. We survived Ronald Reagan.
And there will be a better day. If it's your guy or not your guy, or your woman or not your woman that's running, if it's Mary Waters or Sri Tanada, whoever it is, whoever wins, the world's not going to end tomorrow.
No, it's not. It's not. And we're going to come back on Saturday. We're going to be over at the David Whitney Hotel. They renovated. It used to be the loft in the David Whitney building. And you really love what they did to the place. And we're going to be there for 2 weeks. And how do people reach us? Through Facebook Live?
YouTube,
Instagram?
Facebook, our website, Detroit in Black and White on YouTube, or DetroitinBlackandWhite.com. You can listen to us on where you listen to podcasts. If you're going across town and you want to spend 20 or 30 minutes listening to us, Apple or Spotify or any of those.
Or Deadline.
Deadline Detroit.
That's right. And no question. Alan Langle is off and on vacation. Vanessa Moss, attorney Vanessa Moss. She is with us every Saturday morning. Hopefully we can get her to do this nightly show. I like being here in the evening. It's kind of different. So,
and thanks to everybody that tuned in. Thank you for taking your Wednesday night 35 minutes. 33 minutes that you spent with us tonight. We're grateful that you're there.
Yeah, no question. Thank you, Teresa, always. And we'll be back on Saturday.